The Smith & Wesson CSX is rapidly becoming one of my favorite summertime carry guns, and I had a few issues to start with. I think we've resolved some of them, and we're going to talk about them. Stay tuned. Welcome to Rider's Range while we talk about our updates on the Smith & Wesson CSX. And there was some controversy initially about what CSX stood for, and I haven't seen anything official on it, but I'm guessing that the CS stands for Chief Special, which has long been the trademark name for small guns that Smith & Wesson has made, going way back to the 5-shot J-frame revolvers. And I'm guessing that the X stands for the extra capacity, since this is a double-stack gun. So CSX, Chief Special Extra Capacity. Sounds good to me. Anyway, this, of course, you already know the details about it. I've done a couple of videos so far on this gun. Being a 1911 fan, this is not a 1911, but it has a similar manual of arms. However, some of the complaints that we had were the grip texture, particularly the area in here that was all aluminum, and you can see that this is now covered with texture. We're going to talk about the texture. We're also going to talk about the magazines, because another complaint I had was that and others have also had, was the movable grip sleeve on the 12-round magazine, and I mean, it has to be that way more or less in order to fill in the backstrap area on the magazine and still allow the base plate to come off. But again, that has been resolved. So first thing I want to do is talk about the grips. And Talon did send me these grips. As soon as the CSX came out, I got a hold of Talon Grips and said, when are you coming out with one for the CSX? And they said they were waiting for their sample gun to be able to design the grip for it. Of course, then they patent all of their stuff. And I finally got a set from Talon. Actually sent me the black set that's on there, as well as a tan grip set, and nice if you want a little bit of contrast on there, but I prefer the black. And it's a rubber type of texture, and I'm not going to go through all the method of putting on the grip on the Talon grips on a gun. Enough other videos that have done that. But they did explain that they didn't use their granulate or their pro material, as those are a little bit more rigid, and they had issues adhering to the rough texture. The front strap and the back strap on the CSX have a really rough texture, and actually that was one of the complaints about it, is it can be abrasive. Now it's also really grippy, but the grippy front and back, in conjunction with the bare sides, particularly if you went with a small back strap, it's going to be bare in there. Left, for me at least, a concern that I wasn't getting enough of my hand on the grip, and I like to cover just as much of the grip as possible, particularly filling it in with my secondary hand, and there just wasn't any texture there. Wasn't any texture up here. Granted, most of the traction is going to be front to rear, but there's also a fair amount of side traction on that. So Liberty Lockdown commented on my CSX video a couple of months ago and said that some rubberized Talon grips on the smooth areas would be absolutely amazing. And now that I've got them, they are. So they just feel better in the hand. They got rid of the real rough texture on the back and the front, and I like the feel of these. They're not going to be as abrasive on clothing or the car seat if it happens to rub against it. So Talon to the rescue, solved that particular problem. Now once these are on, you're not changing the back strap on it, but they're also contoured so that they'll fill in that bare spot if you do have the small back strap on this gun. Let's see, holsters are a couple other issues. The upper hand holster, I bought this one online after seeing a Facebook post in the CSX owners group. The upper hand holster for an outside the waistband I like, and it has worked very, very well for me. Nicely fitted. Feels good. I can't remember what I ended up having to pay for this, but I did buy it at full price. Also reached out to Muddy River Tactical, and I've bought several holsters from them in the past. So I bought an inside the waistband, which is going to be more suitable for summer carry. And again, typical Muddy River fashion, it fits really well. And by the way, also in typical Muddy River Tactical fashion, this was shipped within about 3 days of my ordering, and I had it about 3 days after that. So phenomenal service from them. I also needed a magazine carrier, but I found out that the mag carrier for my P30, which I also got the mag carrier from Muddy River Tactical, it does fit the CSS magazines very nicely. All right, so that takes care of holsters, takes care of grips. Let's talk about the magazine. And again, we mentioned that the magazine had issues, and the problem is, of course, when I put the magazine in the magazine carrier, after a while, that spacer has a tendency to slip down. So when I grab the magazine, do a load, and there's the spacer. Easy to pinch my hand between the spacer and the heel of the magazine, and also the butt of the gun. So got out the Dremel Moto tool. I did find a couple of more magazines, by the way, out at Shields out in Colorado Springs a while back. Asked them if they had any. They said probably not, but they'd take a look, and lo and behold, they had 2 of them hanging on the rack. So I bought both of those last time I was out in Colorado. They are becoming a little more available now, but because now I had 3 12-round magazines, I took a chance and I cut the back off of one of them. Cut that piece off and rounded that off just a little bit with an emery stick, and super glued it to the base bed. Now it's not super clean on that side yet. I'll have to take care of that, but the spacer no longer slides down the gun, or the magazine rather. And it does leave a little gap in the back, but you know, when I'm gripping the gun, that gap is virtually not noticeable. Most of the pressure from my hand is going to be right here, and I really don't notice it. And as a spare magazine, that now solves the problem where the spacer doesn't slide down on my spare magazine. So, grip problem solved, holster problem solved, magazine problem solved, although I still wish somebody would come out with a magazine that had just a little longer base plate on it that would actually fit 14 rounds and had a little pinky extension. That would be the be-all, end-all, I think, for this particular gun. So we did take it out to the range several times. I ran my plates at 12 yards. It worked fine. I also have some miniature bowling pin targets that I've been practicing with, and I hung those up at 12 yards. They're much smaller than the 8-inch plates, and I had to concentrate on it, but this thing was hitting those okay. I wanted to see how it would work with defensive ammunition, so I set up a stationary target at 15 yards, my typical 3-inch bullseye. And with 147 Golden Saber, the group was a little loose and also a little bit to the left. The gun seems to be shooting just a hair left anyway, but not enough for me to actually have to worry about it. When I ran the 124 grain Federal punch through it, the first shot was way left. That was me. That's the India, not the arrow. Once I got back on target, a couple more shots to the left, but everything after that dialed right in. Real happy with the group from the 124 grain Federal punch. Did have a little bit of problem with the working this trigger tab safety here, which is still nothing more than a drop safety, which you really don't need on a hammer fired gun, but I guess everybody's so used to them that the masses demand that little tab there. So anyway, it's there. It just didn't work quite as well with me when I've got gloves on. Without gloves, it's working fine. I ran 12-yard plates with it just fine. I got it out to 25 yards. Struggled a little bit, mainly because it was still shooting a little left, and I wasn't properly compensating for that. But I did manage to get the head of the silhouette. I believe that's about a 6-inch diameter plate. Also got the center of the red silhouette. Got it out, got it back, and I even hit the little 6-inch plate on the far right at my 25-yard range. Real happy with that. We're going to roll some of that footage in here. Also took it out to 50, and we'll roll some of that in because I managed to get of course, the 16-inch, the 12-inch, the 10-inch. Struggled a little bit at the 8-inch, but did manage to bring that eventually. And of course, first time I aimed at the 8-inch, hit the 6-inch off to the left of it. But we're going to roll the range footage in there and let it speak for itself.
There we go. How about the 8-inch below it, white with the red center? Not having a lot of luck on that 8. I think I got one shot left here. Try that 8 one more time. Nope, not going to do it on the 8. But
All right, so just a couple of words of caution on some of these I'll call them fitments more than anything else on this gun, because the back strap texture and the front strap texture is so rough on this. When you're using the alcohol pad to clean these off, as you really should, be careful of the fuzz on there. I had to take a wire brush to get the fuzz out. However, do not use the same wire brush that you dip in solvent to clean your firearms. That's not going to be a good thing, kind of defeats the purpose. So that is an issue when you're cleaning for the Talon grips. Second thing is with the magazine base plate change on it, be careful that you don't glue the base too tight. It's got to be able to fit around the magazine, and don't glue it with the magazine in place, or you might not get that out if your super glue is holding properly. So you got to be really careful about how you fit that, how you glue that spacer back onto the base plate, and also make sure you don't fill the channels in the base plate with super glue. Otherwise, you'll never get the base plate back onto the magazine body. So a couple of cautions when you're doing that. But problem solved. Very happy. CSX shoots where I want it to, just a little bit left, but again, for a defensive pistol, and even out to 50 yards, I can make most of that work. And again, it's not a 50-yard pistol. I understand that. But I need to see what the limits of the gun and my hand and eyes combination is, and I know what the limitations are with this gun. If I had to take a shot at 50 yards, no, I'm running. There's no way that bad guys, short of having a sniper rifle, are going to take on me, but I'd much rather have cover than shoot back. I just like to know what the gun will do. So that is a look at some improvements to the Smith & Wesson Chief Special Extra Capacity, or CSX, here on Riders Range. Thanks for joining me while we go through some of those fitment improvements to the CSX.